Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit, and we're coming to our next guest, Sean Tyler Foley. And I just want to say that, over the years, we faced a lot of challenges here at Passage to Profit, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
It's not always been easy, has it? No. And so I think this is probably going to be one of the hardest shows that we've ever done.
Why?
Because our guest tonight has written a book called The Power to Speak Naked. And I just cannot resist making so many jokes that I go overboard. So I'm going to have to really,
whether you're clothed or naked or anything in between.
So our guest tonight, in addition to speaking naked, Sean Tyler Foley takes multitasking to a whole new level. He's an actor and a performer, and he's appeared in all sorts of different productions, from TV series to like True Calling, to movies like Valentine,
Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy versus Jason,
You go.
Carrie. But he does all of this also while running a consulting business for health, safety, and environmental regulations.
Man of many hats.
So my first question is, well, first of all, Tyler, welcome to the show. But how does all of this relate to nakedness?
It doesn't. So the book came about as the title, anyways, as kind of a jest at the idea that if you want to be comfortable and get over stage fright, that you picture your audience naked. And I think it is the absolute worst bit of advice. And I assure you, I am picturing you clothed right now.
Thank God.
Especially since you've got the really good yachting look going. I'm enjoying this look. So I'm imagining you and I doing this interview on a yacht and enjoying it a lot.
But with our clothes on.
With our clothes on, yeah. Possible bathing suit, but beyond that, that's about it. And so the book was really designed so that people could have the power to speak their raw, naked truth. And so it's a multi-level title, really. A little bit of fun jest at the picturing your audience naked. And it actually came from a rant that I had when we were building the book and coming up with the title. Somebody had said, well, what about the, picturing your audience naked? And I went on this massive diatribe about how it was the worst advice. It was totally wrong, that you were trying to find comfort out of other people's discomfort. And what I really wanted to do was give to people the power that they could go up, and if they wanted to, they could speak naked on stage. And as soon as I said it, everybody was like, power to speak naked. There you go. And I went, yes, that's the title. And so on the upper level of it, it is empowering you to tell you strip yourself down and be raw and vulnerable and tell your story in a powerful way. I also firmly believe that things like PowerPoints and prompts are just gimmicks. And I want you to be able to tell your story without that, to just be able to go up and be you. And then let's have a little fun if you wanted to. And could you actually go and give it the full Monty? So that's
well, as an expert on nakedness, can you tell us the difference between nakedness and nudity?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Richard. So naked is stripped down. Nudity is against the law. So either that, or you need to have a lot of permits in place. So I actually did get challenged once giving this talk, and I had a heckler in the audience. He's like, "Hey, naked boy, take off your clothes if you're so good at it." And I funny, and he wouldn't let it go. And so I turned around and I'm like, look, the amount of money it would cost you to see me naked is astronomical. But if you're willing to pay, I'm willing to do it. And he kind of looked at me like, what? And I'm like, look, I'm a man who believes in charity. And anytime I arrange a speaking gig, particularly if it's one that I'm putting on, like if I'm doing my own seminars, what we do is we always book 2 dates for insurance in case something happens where you can't get to the venue for that one time. Then it's not a big scramble to try and get it at another time. We just push it out a week or 2. So I had the venue already booked. And I said to them, look, I've got this room next week. So if you guys want, I will go and I will get all the permits, because it's going to have to be an adults only show and there's a lot of legal work. I will have my team do it. If everybody here is willing to pay 4 times what they paid for this ticket to come next week, and we will put all of the profits towards the local food bank. And everybody in the audience was like, yeah, we'll do that. And I'm like, all right, we're selling the tickets now. You guys walk out the door and you give my assistant money, and we will book it. We will come back. We'll issue the ticket right now. And I will come and I will give my 45-minute presentation completely naked. And we did, and we raised a really good amount of money for the food bank. And that was great. And the best part, the dude didn't even show up.
I hope you had the heat up in the room.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it was already up.
Yeah. The heat was high that day. But no, and the funny part about that is, honestly, Elizabeth, I did crank the heat up a little bit, because when I do my performances, because of the lights, I tend to chill it down. I'm Canadian, so I do it in Celsius. So I keep it about 18, and normally it's 20. So 18, 17, just for my own comfort. But that day I told the crew, I'm like, no, we bring it up. I don't care if the audience is sweating. I need some heat. Let's do this.
So would you ever do that again?
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat.
Okay, listeners, you see us on Zoom. Go call Tyler and tell him you want a naked show.
Tyler, I never give people advice on this show, but I would say that maybe you should start thinking about a sequel to your book, The Power to Speak Half Naked, because people are on Zoom and you never know what they're not wearing underneath, right? And
That's
I think, that could be a bestseller. So
I'm on board. Thank you for the advice. I will make sure the royalties come your way.
Oh no, they should go to charity. I think that's awesome.
iHeart is paying us like $1 million per show, so we don't need the money.
I've never heard of somebody using nakedness to help charity before. That's amazing. That is out of the box thinking, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that is creative.
That is buck naked, I'll tell you.
Well, what that is that's the power to speak naked.
So Kenya, I know you got to say something here, Kenya.
Yeah. So curiously enough, how do you handle like a tough crowd? Like when you're speaking?
That's a great question. Honestly, Kenya, years of practice and having a thick skin. It helped that I grew up in theater. So from the time I was 6, I was in theater. I was doing theater sports when I was about 12 years old, working on improv. And I mean, I've had some disastrous bombs, and you get over it. But I know one of the things that I learned was to not take myself seriously. And in theater sports, we usually do a thing called yes and. So if somebody throws out anything, any kind of suggestion when you're playing around with theater sports, or even when you're workshopping in a theater itself, no idea is a bad idea. And so when somebody says something that's absolutely ridiculous, my brain has been trained after 35 years to embrace the stupidity of it and run. So when I have somebody be like, hey, do this thing, I'm like, okay. And then my mind is instantly thinking to itself, how do you actually make that happen? And that honestly, when this guy was heckling me, that was all I could think of. And so, and I've had other scenarios where people are like, they pick on you for a thing, or they're just not on your side. And the easiest way to disarm that is to acknowledge it, right? Just be like, yeah, no, look, I shouldn't have done 2 callers today. If I'd have known it was Ascot Day, I would have worn my finest. And then we would have just gone from there.
So you're doing a lot of different things, or you have done a lot of different things. An actor, running a health and safety and environmental company, and speaking gigs. Where are you spending most of your time right now?
In this blank gray void. My life is a series of Zoom calls right now. We're normal days, when it would be like a typical year, which we are not having currently, I would probably be splitting my time 50% on the road, 50% at home. And then my home time is really dedicated home time, where I spend a lot of time with my wife and my daughter. And then when I'm on the road, if I can, depending on when we're going, I will try to coordinate so that at least one, if not both, can come with me. And, you know, my daughter's had a passport for a while because most of my traveling is international. So we're geared to be able to move. And the nice thing about having the company is that I just have to tell the team go, and they execute. So I've got a really good team behind me that makes the magic happen. And then I just show up, whether I'm doing the safety consulting or whether I'm doing the speaking, and they tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. And I show up and I put that hat on, and then I present and go. And a lot of people ask about it, Elizabeth, and go ahead, ask your question. I'll probably get to it.
You probably was. I was going to say, you grew up acting. How in the world did you get into health and safety? I mean, it's an important area for companies because our health and safety is the most important.
So
thing.
you used to work at Dow Chemical
in environmental, which is part of health and safety.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you go from an actor to owning a health and safety consultancy?
By jumping out of windows.
Okay.
Really, as weird as it sounds. So when I started in acting, again, I was very young. And by the time I was 17, I moved to the epicenter for Canadian film, which is Vancouver. And when I got out there, I met some really, really talented people who were into stunt work. And so I very passively trained to do some stunts. I'm by no means a stunt professional. I know guys who have dedicated their entire lives and careers to it, but I am a performer who is capable of doing a few stunts. And because I'm a tiny wee man, I'm 5'7" and about 135 pounds. When you push me out of a window, I look like I fall farther than somebody who is 6'2". So I got to do a lot of high falls. And when I retired from acting and stopped having it as a full-time gig, I took my mad acting money that I had made over multiple years, almost 20 years, and I went back to school and got a geomatics engineering diploma. And so when I did that, I was now set up to be, you know, basically a map maker and surveyor. And I loved doing aerial photography. And I partnered with a really, really smart businesswoman and created my first company, InView Solutions. And our primary client was the government. And as you know, when you're working for the government, they want to know about your health and safety.
And that's so the connection to the nakedness.
Yeah, we're getting to the naked part.
Okay.
And so they asked, you know, hey, do you have your safety system? And then I had to go and learn all of this stuff about safety. And unfortunately, my business partner and I, over the course of about 2.5 years, were probably 10 years ahead of our time in the product that we were delivering. We ended up specializing in mobile interior LiDAR mapping, which was something that nobody else was doing, and it was very cost prohibitive for most of our clients. And so we were struggling with it. And then she passed away suddenly, and we didn't have the right director's insurance in place, and the business went under right now. And so I had all of the safety training, I had this business acumen, and I had no way to use it. And another good friend of mine, who is a very smart businessman himself, said, listen, I have just picked up this big oil and gas contract. We need a full-time safety officer on site. You have most of the qualifications. You just need to take these 2 or 3 other courses. If I pay for them, will you come and be my safety officer? I said, yes.
So
and then acting, from that, go ahead.
Tyler, were you acting during this whole time too? Or were you like off the acting thing?
At that point, I was off acting. So if you get anybody who IMDb's me, you see that there is a gap. Right? About 2005, I go dark until about 2015. And it was just because I'd gotten, acting had become a job, and I always had done it because it was fun. And it was so much fun to go and have fun and make money. And the money was kind of a byproduct of going and getting to play with really cool people.
Right.
And then when it started to be a job, when I remember the day that I got a call from my agent. I had just done an audition. I was driving, when I was living about 2.5, 3 hours away in Penticton, which is interior BC. very beautiful place. And I kind of just enjoyed it. It was a fun atmosphere. And so I had to drive a long way to get in for my auditions. And she had phoned, I was on the highway halfway between my house and the city center. And I had a callback, which is usually when you have a callback, that's one of the, that, you know, it's almost as good as booking because that means you did something right. And I remember being on the phone being like, oh, do I have to go? And as soon as I realized that I wasn't willing to drive back for a callback, I knew that we needed to do a lifestyle change. And that's when I started looking at options of going back to school.
Wow. I mean, that's such an interesting decision because so many people probably would not have made that choice because, you know, being in the public versus doing good work on the health, environmental safety side of things it's important work, but you don't necessarily get as much recognition. Some people become addicted to that.
Yeah, no, my best story from health and safety is, you know, getting to go, being mistaken. Somebody told me once when I was doing a training session that I reminded them of a cross between Mike Birbiglia and Andy Samberg. And as soon as they said that to me, I was like, that is the greatest compliment. Is it okay that we hug? We're not allowed to hug. There's no touching, okay.
So Tyler, unfortunately, we have to take a break here, but we'll be right back with more Passage to Profit and Tyler Foley and the whole naked truth. So stay tuned.